Welcome to Take a Breath, a podcast for creating practical calm in the messy middle of midlife. I'm Polly, and this is your space to pause. Because life in midlife is full on, between work, family, menopause, and the mental load, your nervous system can easily end up in constant overdrive, leaving you feeling exhausted, reactive, and overwhelmed by even the smallest things. Each week, I'll share my own tools alongside honest conversations and practical nervous system support to help you create more calm, peace, joy, and inner steadiness. So whenever you're ready, let's take a breath in through the nose, feel your belly rise, your ribs expand, and as you exhale, let's begin. Hello and welcome back to Take a Breath. Now, I've literally come back from last week, a camp called Self-Love Camp. Now, if you haven't heard of that before, it's organised by the brilliant Lou in Luland, who was actually my very first guest on this podcast. So if you go back to episode 2, you will hear a little bit of Lou's story, but it is a little old now. That was 3 years ago. Go look her up on Instagram if you haven't looked her up already. She's all about self-love and empowerment, and she's bloody brilliant. And I know her from when the kids were little. Our kids went to the same school, and Lou used to organise these amazing camps for all the community. And she asked me to come along and do some breath work at her self-love camp, which I obviously did. But the thing which was so amazing about it was I got to participate in the camp as well. And the thing about Lou is that she is amazing at bringing together other incredible women to connect, to learn, to just try new things. And these few days, I didn't know anybody other than Lou, and I showed up, and honestly, it was really fantastic spending time meeting people, from all different areas of the country, of the world, different walks from life. So it was really, really good. And the best thing as well was that during the 3 days, well, it was 4 days actually, 3 nights, I barely looked at my phone. I didn't check my emails. We were at the beautiful campsite, which really was just gorgeous. There's a stream running through it. So we're in nature with a load of new people experiencing really inspiring talks. And as I said, being invited to step out of our comfort zones. It really helps you look at things in a very different way. And on my way home, I realised, I felt really good. I felt like I do often after a holiday or after other retreats I've been on. And I think it's many reasons why I felt like that. But I think probably one of the biggest reasons is because I've reconnected with something that's largely missing from modern life. And that's actually what I want to talk about today, because the more I think about it, the more I believe there's one ingredient that many of us are desperately short of, particularly women in midlife, particularly women who are juggling careers, businesses, children, parents, all the stuff, all the invisible labour that comes with being the person who generally keeps things moving along. And I think what we're missing is space. Space to think, space to feel, space to hear ourselves and our thoughts, space to be exposed to different ideas, different perspectives, space to stop reacting in the ways that we don't want to be reacting, and actually space to start responding in the way that we want to respond. Space for our nervous systems to experience something other than this constant input that we are constantly being barraged with every moment of every day. And what struck me after this camp last week was just how rarely most of us experience that anymore. And I really got that from the women who I spoke to at the camp, the talks that I was listening to. We don't give ourselves this time and space. And it's only when we do that we can then start to tap into our brilliant selves. We can start to open up our creativity even more. We can stop all those stories which are looping in our heads of worrying what people think, of pleasing everybody else, of getting stuck in spirals of anxiety. And for me, those 3 days were just really about doing something different. I wasn't consuming the usual information I usually do in my everyday life. I wasn't having the usual conversations I was having. I was looking at different scenery. I had different routines. And it was just all about trying new things, learning new things, meeting new people. And I really realised, that is actually, although it was out of my comfort zone a lot of the time, it's actually super important to do this, because our brains and our nervous systems, they need experiences like this far more than most of us realise. One of the most amazing things about being a human is that we adapt to almost everything. And whilst that's absolutely incredibly useful, it also, however, isn't so useful, because often it means that we stop noticing things. We stop noticing, for example, how busy we are, or how much responsibility we're carrying, how many decisions we're having to make every day, how much stimulation we're constantly absorbing, or how much pressure we're living under, particularly as women in midlife. We're often carrying everything, our careers, our businesses, etc., all the things, the life admin, the family logistics, the emotional labor, and that's because we're super capable and we keep going. We become really, really good at functioning under pressure. But the problem is that's all really good until that pressure becomes our normal, because we've adapted so well to that pressure, but it becomes just our normal baseline. So I like to think of it a bit like living next to a really busy road. Well, actually, I used to live next to a railway line. And at first, I heard every single train that would come down that railway line, every single one. And if you were to live next to a busy road, it's like you hear every car. And then after a while, I remember it was amazing. I didn't really hear those trains anymore. But if you live next to a busy road, you wouldn't hear the cars anymore. You just get used to it. You adapt. The noise hasn't gone anywhere. You've simply adapted to it. And I think this is exactly what happens with stress, with tension, with pressure. Many of us are living with so much background noise and pressure that we've stopped noticing it's there until we actually step away and we give ourselves some space. And if we obviously don't notice it's there and we keep it going and we keep that pressure under that pressure, eventually something's going to break. We can't live under that pressure consistently, because that's when we get to burnout, we have a breakdown, many things can happen. What's actually really fascinating is that there is real science which explains why stepping away from your everyday life really can feel so powerful. So there's this theory called attention restoration theory. Now, it's actually really very simple, so don't switch off. It's not very complicated at all. There were these couple of researchers. It was Stephen and Rachel Kaplan. They noticed something really interesting. Modern life that we live in requires what they called directed attention. So we're constantly directing our focus at something. So most of it is at our phones. So whether that's your texts, your WhatsApps, emails, but it also might be a deadline. It might be your to-do list. It might be decisions or remembering stuff or solving problems or managing people, whatever that might be. Our attention is being pulled in those 1,000 different directions. And this is exhausting for our brains. But nature works really differently. So nature creates what these two researchers called soft fascination. So when you're outdoors and you're looking at new experiences, so if you're looking at mountains or trees or clouds or beautiful landscape, your attention is gently engaged. It's not being demanded. So you're not looking to solve anything or decide anything. You're just simply noticing. And this allows our brains to recover. And it's one of the reasons why just even a 20-minute walk in nature can sometimes leave you feeling so much better, so much clearer than an entire afternoon sitting on the sofa scrolling on your phone. You know, your brain finally gets a break. It gets some space to pause. And I think this is one of the reasons getting away to a retreat or something of that nature, or it can really feel so transformative, particularly, you know, if you are in that beautiful surrounding of nature, because we're finally giving our minds a break from that constant directed attention. I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their True Hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their True Collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off. So there's another piece of science which I really love around this, which is about novelty and dopamine. Now, when we hear about dopamine, we often think about that as, you know, creating pleasure. But dopamine actually does so much more than that. It's actually involved also in curiosity, in learning, in motivation, in creativity. It's what helps us notice new possibilities. And when we experience new environments, new conversations, new ideas, new experiences, our dopamine increases. So that is probably why I felt different after these few days away last week. I wasn't doing anything particularly extraordinary, but I was exposing myself to new experiences, to novelty. And our brains don't always, you know, when we have novelty, our brains are prediction machines. You know, it's kind of it's almost like you're waking them up. So I was, you know, there were new people, new workshops, new conversations, new perspectives. My brain was receiving information it doesn't normally receive. And something interesting happens when we step into these new environments. We just stop running on the same mental loops because your brain's a bit like, oh, hold on a minute. I don't know what's going on here. This is not familiar. So we're not seeing the same stories or the same routines. We become a little bit more flexible in our thinking. And I think this is why often many people come back from weekends away or from retreats saying things like, oh, I've actually had a real breakthrough, or I suddenly know what I want, or I've got some clarity.
it's not necessarily because the retreat gave her the answer. It's because the retreat or the space created enough distance from your everyday life, your everyday routines, for your brain to start thinking in a different way. It kind of is almost like a waking up. Your brain likes familiarity. It kind of always finds the easiest thing to go back to. So it likes routine. But when you give it something different, something new, it's almost like, oh, hold on a minute, there's something new happening here. And if that's done in a really lovely, safe environment, then it can be a really positive thing. And there's one third piece of science I just want to share with you. It's called something called the social baseline theory. Now, this was discovered by researchers. They discovered that the brain experiences challenges differently when we feel supported. Now, this is why I particularly love retreats or weekends away where you're being held or supported by someone, rather than just a weekend away when you're probably, still organising stuff. You're still thinking about what you're going to eat. You're still wondering what you're going to do. There was a study that found that simply holding the hand of a trusted person reduced activity in the parts of the brain associated with threat and stress. I mean, it's very simple, but if you just think about that for a moment, nothing in the situation changed. The challenge didn't disappear. The problem wasn't necessarily solved, but the nervous system experienced it differently because somebody else was there. And I think this really explains something really lovely about going away with other people where you are being held, where the space is being held for you. So this is why I particularly love retreats. It's not necessarily always about what you're actually doing on the retreat. It becomes more about the connection, being around people who understand you, being around people who aren't asking anything from you, being around people who just are holding that space for you, because so many of us are spending our lives being, we're supporting everybody else. We have very little time where we are being supported ourselves. And there is something deeply regulating about being in a space where someone else is holding everything, holding the structure, someone else who's making the decisions, who is creating that container. It really is like nectar to your nervous system. Your nervous system gets to put everything down for a while and you just get to be. And it is like a breath of fresh air, literally. And this is why I absolutely love retreats, and I love creating retreats, because they don't, it's not because they have to be luxurious, although they absolutely can be. And it's not because I think they're indulgent. I think a lot of people do think that it's very indulgent to go off and give yourself that time. But actually, I think they're incredibly practical. They create those perfect conditions that are really very difficult to access in your everyday life. They are creating space. They are creating this sort of sense of novelty. Often they give you that nature, that human connection, a pause for stillness, for perspective. And when you combine all of those ingredients together with something which I love, something like breathwork, it can be so, so powerful, because the breathwork helps your body feel different and the retreat environment helps your brain think differently. And together they really can create that possibility for genuine change. So that is, and I don't want this to be a sales pitch at all, because obviously, it might be right for you, it might not be, but this is why I absolutely love the retreat which I've created with my friend Jo Reeder. It's a retreat in Austria. We did it last year. We're doing it again this year. And honestly, yes, it's a beautiful 5-star hotel. Yes, there are spas and saunas, and it's really it's everything actually. It's the beautiful mountain views. It is very luxurious, but it's just this environment that is just so brilliant for your nervous system. It kind of almost is saying to your nervous system, okay, you can stop now. You can stop rushing. You have no demands on you. You don't have to worry about when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, what you're going to do. I just think it's so important on any retreat that there's enough space just to be and do your own thing. But obviously as well, there is breath work, but everything is very much optional. It's just a real opportunity to connect with nature, to connect with other like-minded humans, and to give yourself a pause to normal life and an opportunity to remember what it feels like to be you without all the other stuff that you have to do in your normal everyday life. But here's what I want to emphasize. You don't have to fly to Austria to experience this. Obviously, if you would like to, you are more than welcome. We've still got a few places left. I will put the link in the show notes. So if you feel like that could be your thing, then please do check it out. But you don't have to fly to Austria to experience this. You can actually create pockets in your own everyday day. So this is where I do my inner space, 20 minutes in the morning. It's like almost creating a little micro dose of a pause. But I've also started some mini 1.5 hour retreats in my garden where we do breathing for 20 minutes. We're doing cold plunging in my lovely, beautiful cold plunge, and we are doing saunering. So it's about 1.5 hours, because actually whatever it is you're doing, and if you don't live close to me, I'm really sorry, but maybe one day you could come and visit. But it's finding something that works for you, because the principle is really exactly the same. You're stepping out of your normal environment. You're interrupting the pattern of your everyday, and you're just giving yourself and your nervous system something different. So it's just thinking about how you can pause for a portion of your day, or a portion of your week, or a portion of your month, and just to reset. It's almost like a reminder and a chance to connect with yourself, to hear yourself think again. So do just have a little reflect on this. Think about how you can create that pause. It might be at the beginning of every day. It might be a walk out in nature. It might be coming to one of my 1.5 hour mini retreats, if that is something you might like to do. They are coming. I haven't quite started them yet, but I'm very close to starting them. I feel so fortunate that we have just built a sauna in the bottom of our garden. It's absolutely gorgeous, and we've got a beautiful cold plunge which is filtered, and it's got a cooler in it as well. And these are going to be gorgeous resets for people to come and experience. But also you can find something, I'm sure, closer to home, if you're not local to me, where you can just find something which is perhaps just looking at something in a different way. Resetting your nervous system doesn't necessarily have to be luxury or escaping your life. It's just simply giving yourself some space, which is something so many of us are craving. It's just enough space to hear ourselves again. And I really do hope that you can find it for yourself, because once we do, everything feels just a little lighter, a little brighter. We show up for those we love in our life so much better, and with more ease and with more joy. Thank you so much for listening today. This is a short and sweet episode. I just felt compelled to talk about this today. Please do come and check out the Austria retreat. You won't regret it. It is so gorgeous up there in the Austrian mountains. There's opportunities to go hiking. There is opportunities to do nothing at all, just to wallow in the spa. There's obviously breath work with me, but it is I just want to, if you've had a bad breathwork experience in the past, this is not that sort of breathwork. This is very much about down regulation. It's about teaching your nervous system what safety feels like, what pausing and slowing down feels like. Most of us have forgotten how to do that. It's really very, very easy and calm and down, and it just feels good. So please do check that out, and I hope to see some of you there.
Before you go, just to let you know that you'll find a selection of gentle, practical offers at really accessible prices over on my website. They're all designed to support your everyday breathing, to ease anxiety and help you build a more resilient, flexible nervous system so you can feel calmer and bring a little more steadiness into your daily life. Everything I share is designed to meet you where you are and to fit into real busy lives. Just go to hollywarren.com and click on the resource library. If you'd like to stay connected between episodes, you can also find me over on Instagram at Polly Warren Coaching. This is where I share simple reminders and tools and reflections to help you come back to calm throughout the week. And if you're enjoying Take a Breath, it would mean so much if you could take a moment to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help this podcast reach more women who might need a little space to breathe too. Thank you so much for being here and for taking this time for yourself. And remember, sometimes all you need to do is take a breath.